Thank you for joining us for Coffee with Hillary and Les, brought to you by the State of Mind Hypnosis and Training Center, located in the heart of the Kawartha Lakes. This is our almost daily community podcast about the mind and how we all might change it in the most simple and helpful ways. Every day we sit, staring at the lake and sipping our coffee, chatting about hypnosis and how to make those meaningful adjustments to our state of mind. Because nothing's more important than your state of mind. You just get started. Let's find out.
Yeah, it's coming through louder now. This is good. Yeah, so this morning I woke up. I had a good night's sleep for the most part and got right into meditation. And had a nice hour-long meditation with stretching and just trying to be kind to my body and mind, and felt great afterwards. And then life started. And the meditation felt like it hadn't worked any longer. Because, I got those anxious feelings and just felt like I wanted to help others but knew I couldn't help them. And I just felt out of sorts.
Yeah, we live in a world of others, right? Mm-hmm. That's the funny thing, I remember Eckhart Tolle talking about, he did a talk once and it was all about the others. A French philosopher said, hell is the others. And it really is both the beauty and the taxing of this life is connecting with others, finding friendships with others, finding like minds who complement our lives and support our lives, and we support theirs. And there's that beautiful symbiosis. And then there's the ones that we meet that's not the way it works out, right? Though we meet new people and they create in us a wide array of emotions that we don't want to have. And when you spend your time trying to be peaceful, trying to have a peaceful mind, and then the world just jumps in, it just pounces on you, and it can be people interacting with you, it can be people interacting with people you love. People who you love bring you their conflicts and their fears. The world suddenly takes on a whole different look. That may be why we have a nice gray day today. It's a little bit warmer by the lake and the water is broken back open through the ice. And maybe it's a gray day because it's about focusing internally.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Everything has meaning, whatever meaning we want to put on it, I suppose. So today we thought we'd talk about people, but it's hard to talk about people without talking about how they interact, because that's what they're here for. I mean, here's a neat concept, and I've yet to find a contradiction to it. Everything and the only thing human beings do is communicate. Everything we do is a form of communication. And there's always people around us receiving that communication. We are always sending that communication. It's really the only valuable thing human beings do is communicate, reminding each other that somehow, somewhere, at some level, we're all connected. But sometimes what they communicate really pisses us off and it scares us, right? And sometimes it makes us angry. And those are the kinds of emotions, I think, that really trigger the need to get control of your mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely felt that this morning. A little bit of anger, a little bit of fear when I was in complete bliss like half an hour earlier. And just wondering, well, thinking to myself, okay, I know how quickly I can attain that blissful state, so just make it part of my day now instead of waiting till I'm at my wit's end and I'm not sleeping properly to start that in my life.
Yeah, there's nothing more important than your state of mind, right? And your state of mind is going to determine how you receive things. And that, I think, is the biggest insight. The biggest insight is remembering that the way you see things is what's going to place the meaning and interpretation of your experiences on you. If you see the world as a scary place, then the world will be interpreted by your mind. Every single event, every single communication will be interpreted as something you need to be careful of and cautious of and protect yourself from. If, on the other hand, you see everything that comes your way in life just an opportunity to learn and an opportunity to spread love, right? The opportunity to offer peace to others, then you're going to respond completely differently to everything that comes your way. The hard part is grabbing hold of your mind and keeping it from running into fear or running into anger. So maybe, the first really big thing to always remember is to be kind, because we're all fighting the same hard battle. It's like the oldest saying that I know of. It comes from the Stoics. It comes from the Taoists. It's an old idea, and when it gets boiled down into modern English, it's just simply be kind. We are all fighting the same hard battle. Now, what that battle is, that's your context. That's the way you see life. Here we are, trying to record a podcast, and we've got this beautiful being, our dog, Tyke, and she just wants our attention. She's not going to give up. She wants to play tug of war. She wants us to go outside and play with her, and that's what she wants. And that's what drives us, I think. I think it's important to understand that we're all driven by our needs, whether we consider them wants or needs. I like to think of it in the Buddhist terms, attachments and desires. These are the kinds of things that motivate us, right? They're the things that cause us to do what we do. If we start there and we use we're all fighting the same hard battle, is everybody's out there trying to have their needs met. And in doing so, they really have to interact with other people. I used to start all my classes with this. I used to start orientation at the college with this. It's so important to understand that nothing comes to us except through other people. Nothing comes to us except through other people. Things don't randomly come about. There's always somebody involved. And when we think about all the wonderful things that can happen to us, they always involve a person. And we think about all the difficult things to happen to us, it always involves at least another person. Tyke just won't leave us alone.
I just put her toy on the table and she's looking at me like...
What are you doing with my toy?
Yeah.
Yeah, people have their needs. Tyke has her needs. She wants attention today. She wants to play. She wants to interact with us because it's quite obvious that she loves us. And she wants our love back. And we're busy doing something else. And if that isn't just sort of the most typical kind of life interaction, people want what people want. And in wanting it, they try to influence other people to give it to them. With Tyke, she grabs a toy and drops it on your foot, or nudges you up against the leg. or
Stares into your eyes.
stares into your eyes with her tail wagging with joy. Just give me attention. Just give me some attention, please. Sometimes our desire to control others is coming from a good place, and sometimes our desires to control others comes from a very selfish place. But it's all flowing from needs. So when we think of everybody, out there just trying to do their best, just trying to figure out what life's about and do their best at it, then we're more inclined to respond with compassion than we are to respond with anger or fear. When we are thinking of other people as something we have to deal with, well then, generally speaking, it's anger and fear. And they aren't really good tools. They don't lead us to the best places. They certainly don't lead us to peace. Now, this is a tough one today. And I guess I'm doing all the talking.
That's okay. My brain's not lost. You can cut that out. Trying to think of something. See, so this is my life problem when it comes to talking and listening. I remember at a pretty young age listening to people. I think I was in my teens. I was listening to people, and the whole time I was listening, I was trying to think of what to say next. What can I say? What can I say? What can I say? That's maybe totally random. Or along with to be along with their conversation. And so I wouldn't even hear what you were saying. I was just in my head thinking, what can I say? What can I say? And so when you're here doing an amazing job of talking and enlightening people and everything, I'm here just listening. And so when there's a pause, I haven't thought of anything to talk about. And as you know, I'm a very visual person, so I don't really think in words, and so it's mainly visuals going on in my head, and so I'm interpreting twice, right? The visuals come in, then I have to interpret that into words, then they have to come out of my mouth, and that's hard for me sometimes. So that's why I don't suddenly speak or talk over top of you.
No, and I'm rambling on about a whole bunch of things, and I guess I should just cut to the point, right? I've spent a lot of time in my life being really fascinated by the way people want to control other people. I have a particular problem with it. I like to think that everybody is just fine. They're out there doing what they need to do. But people interact with other people, and then they get into this situation where they want things from each other. They're not able to accomplish their goals without assistance. They need resources. They need support in some way or another. And then they turn to other people and want to get them to help them satisfy their needs. So I've spent a lot of time thinking about that and trying to understand this thing that I call fundamentally power. Control, influence, seduction. It's the way we try to impact, control, seduce, influence the decision, or more importantly, the choice another person makes. And to me, that's power. And power comes in all kinds of degrees, in all kinds of experiences, but it always flows from need. And our needs really get in our way because what we might choose to do, what we might want to be, is always being influenced by what we need, what we want, what we need, what we desire, what we require. It's always being shaped by that. I really believe that when we're having difficulties with people, it's because what they want is not what we want. And they want something from us. They want us to make a choice we wouldn't otherwise want to make. And so then they exercise whatever power they have, which is really their ability to impact your needs. So we think about our friend who's having issues at work and a boss that is being just really particularly difficult. They obviously want our friend to leave, to leave the business, get the heck out of the company. And our friend really needs her job. She needs to pay bills. She needs to live her career the way she's dreamed about it. And while all of that is going on, while those needs are actively in play, they find themselves in conflict. Because our friend won't do what the boss wants done, and the boss won't stop harassing our friend. And then you get into a larger circle of needs because the company that they both work for need the talents of both of these people. And so then they're required to find a way to have the two of them work together. And so now they're going to exercise their power, their ability to control their needs in a form of trying to control. I feel like I'm just rambling here, and I want to be clear. So let's reduce it really simply. Life is not lived minute by minute. Life is lived choice by choice, whether we're making them or not. And we often don't make choices because we're under the influence of a whole lot of programming that exists in our subconscious mind that makes us think we want and we need a list of things that maybe we don't really want and maybe we don't really need. But that's what controls our response to other people and the situations they create around us. We want to be in control of that. We want to be peaceful. We want to have a calm mind. We want to be the kind of person we can be proud of. And yet we feel attacked. We feel controlled. We feel like all these others in the world are coming at us. So what do we do? Right? What do we do? Well, I think the first thing we do is we understand that power is about making choices, and it's people trying to influence the choice you make. Then we understand that the way they influence the choice that we make is because they have the ability to somehow impact our needs. Sometimes our needs for survival, sometimes our needs for meaning, sometimes our needs for the future and what we want to accomplish. When those people come forward and they try to influence us, we immediately respond with anger. We immediately respond with fear because our needs are now at risk. If anger is that feeling, that emotion of I'm being treated unfairly, and if fear is that emotion of I could be hurt, I could die, then we're really in a position to have to control those emotions and be more deliberate in the way we respond. Now, if we like power, if we like those kinds of interactions, then we should just interact using our own power, which is, you want something from me, that gives me power. Am I going to give you what you want, or am I going to withhold it, or I'm going to give you something else? So I think it's really easy quickly to balance any dynamic of power. just remembering that that person wouldn't be trying to control, influence, or seduce you if they didn't have a need. And you can use that need to benefit you. But all of that, to me, is power. That's the cycle of power. It never ends. Once you use power, everybody's using power on each other. Once a relationship you have engages in power, it's hard to ever get it out of this constant power dynamic. And I believe that the only opposite to power is love. How can I be compassionate? How can I be caring? How can I remember that we're all fighting the same hard battle? How can I be helpful or useful to you in a way that doesn't cost me? It doesn't cost me my sense of self. It doesn't cost me something that's important to me. It doesn't put me in jeopardy or at risk. And that's a hard thing. Because like us, we wake up in the morning and it just comes at us. It comes at us really fast, really intensely, from many directions. And some of these directions are interrelated. So, the people that we love often love some of the same people. And we're balancing out how we can be caring and compassionate to others.
So I'll maybe interject at this point. So I would imagine that a lot of people in this world are going through kind of the same thing that, our friend is going through at work, where you're doing everything you can for the company, and that person that's in charge is feeling of insecurity, basically. And now you're a threat to them, and they're trying to get rid of you. And so there's this power dynamic going on. What would you say to those people? How do you work with that without not degrading, that's not the right word, but like, how do you go about working with that kind of situation without turning into that person that is hurting you through their power?
And there it is. That's the quest of life, isn't it? That's the hard part of life. Well, my answer is always going to be, you start with yourself. Nothing's more important than your state of mind. I think there's a lot of value in understanding what a power dynamic is and seeing yourself in a power dynamic. When you see yourself in a power dynamic, it means you have needs and they have needs, and those needs are now in conflict. And now you have a better understanding of what you're afraid of or what you're angry about. If you can break that down right there into saying, you have needs, I have needs. What needs are you trying to advance? What needs am I trying to advance? And try to think them through more deeply, understand them. It's oftentimes when we understand our own needs, we start to realize that we're fighting for something we don't care about, right? And sometimes the easiest way to solve the problem is just comply. Just smile and say, you're having a bad day. I'm just going to give you what you want, because I do love you. Now, in a work situation, people don't go around saying, I love you to each other. People are in the office and they're all got their own agendas and they've all got their own purposes. And none of them are there, generally speaking, none of them are there because they just love it so much. They're there because they have a longer term plan that this particular job fits into. But if you can, at that point, see yourself as a being with needs and see them as a being with needs and pause and say, we're all fighting the same hard battle. And we as human beings can actually reach out to each other with understanding, with compassion, and attempt to have a meaningful conversation about this. I need to understand why you are attacking me all the time, because that's the way it feels. I need to understand why you're attacking me is probably going to be the response. And then, you sit down and you communicate, because communication is everything. It's all we have. Now, that's really hard to do in a world full of strangers and people who, we're not predisposed to love them. They're not predisposed to love us. They see both of us see each other as some kind of thing to utilize, something that I either have to respond to get what I want, or I have to get them to respond to get what I want. I think the answer is, can you find compassion in your heart? Can you be strong enough in yourself to say, I'm going to be just fine no matter what happens here? And do your best to resolve and stop the war that's taking place between the two of you. I don't know if that helps. I don't know if that makes sense. It really is how I try to think of it.
Yeah, I guess in my mind, my next question is, well, how do you sit down and talk to somebody? What are your needs when they just have it in their head that they have it out for you?
Yeah, some people aren't very in touch with their feelings. Again, that's why we say there's nothing more important than your state of mind. It's about knowing and understanding yourself. And we live in a world where, people are walking around and they don't know and understand themselves. And they haven't spent the time. And most of us who actually spend the time to try to know and understand ourselves are still not very good at it. But it's a different approach, isn't it? I mean, it's one is an approach of attack and defense, and the other is an approach of resolution. We don't have to destroy each other.
Would you say a portion of that power would be leaving?
Well, you always have that choice. That's why I say it's all about choice. What are your choices? Your choices are always more than you think they are. There's always a wider range of choices than you think they are. Most of your choices are a function of habit, and that's what comes out of your subconscious mind, right? Your subconscious mind is delivering over to you the same emotions and the same responses to those emotions. And that's why you really need to dig deep and reprogram. Can you reprogram your view of the world from, I live in a world of attack that I need to defend from, to, I live in a world where we are all fighting the same hard battle. If you can make that shift in your mind, it's just going to be wonderful. It's going to change the way you feel. I think the most important thing you can do is change the way you feel. It doesn't mean you're changing the way the other person feels. It doesn't mean that. But by changing the way you feel, you change the way you react to the world. And it's in changing the way you feel that you start to move towards peace. And I just can't think of anything more important than that, really, in life. But that's my strange point of view. That's my strange context. That's where I've come, right?
Yeah, and that kind of circles around to this morning, I let what happened with people in my life this morning change my emotion, right? I let that happen. And so how do you rise above that, or how do you not let that happen? How do you stay in that bliss that I found with meditation this morning? Finally coming down from that fight or flight and into the rest and relaxation. How do you stay in rest and relaxation when the world is just chaotic around you? And then that makes me think, well, at that moment in time, I saw the world as chaotic. I dove into that chaos. I agreed and said yes, and, and really fell into that chaos this morning. And so absolutely that brought me out of my state of bliss. But then there's the idea of, well, how do you make the person that you're speaking with feel heard without diving into it, right? I could have just shut off my mind to the person and just glazed over and listened. But what is that? What am I not being attentive at that moment?
Well, that's one of the ways we think of caring. It's also one of the ways we think of battle. Whatever that person does determines how I respond. And that, I think, is the break you need to make. Remember, I have choice. I can choose peace instead of war. How do I go about creating peace in a state of war? I understand the dynamics of need around me, and I do my best within that context, without hurting myself, to be caring and compassionate and helpful. One of the things I think that we need to reframe, and I work on it, I think everybody could benefit from it. It's not my place to tell you what to do, but if you're looking for a reframe, it's important to realize that however anybody else behaves does not have to determine how I behave. If I walk into a room and a whole bunch of people are screaming and yelling at each other, it's very natural for me to get right into the spirit of it and start screaming and yelling, but I don't have to. I can choose differently. When somebody's angry at me, it's natural for me to be angry at them. It's natural for me to defend by attacking. But I don't have to. I can choose something different. If somebody who I think is being a bad person causes me to be a bad person in response, well, I'm going to feel lousy about myself. Some of the worst feelings I've ever had are when I rose to the state of argument that the other person had, and we found ourselves battling it out. And whether I win or lose the argument, because you only ever lose arguments, I am now being someone I don't want to be. So reframe and say to yourself, I don't have to respond to negativity with negativity. That's embracing your own state of mind. That's embracing the state of choice and saying, I don't have to do this. And if you get yourself to the point where every time you're interacting with other people, you can be conscious that you can choose how you respond here. You can choose to be the person you really want to be. And there's no weakness, there's no loss here. In the end, your conscience, your state of mind, when it's under your control, it just feels better. I'm sorry for rambling. I would like to do some work in the future, talking about power, breaking down the elements and understanding that, we really only live in two worlds, a world of power or a world of love. The mind is going to be shaped by one of those two. But we don't like the word love, do we? Love sounds so soft and it sounds so intimate. And so it's not the kind of thing we think we should be showing to strangers. But I think that's part of the problem, is the way we think of love. Another reframe for another day.
Maybe thinking instead of love, a kindness.
Yeah, which is certainly a form of love, isn't it?
Yeah. But maybe not as intimate for people.
Yeah, it's amazing. One of the things I always remember is some of our ancient languages had literally dozens of words for different kinds of love. Whereas we have just the word love. And then we put modifiers in front of it, like family love or romantic love or anyway.
Hallmark love.
Hallmark.
I don't know if I can say this on this channel. So what should we cap it off with?
Well, there's your reframe. Be kind. We're all fighting the same battle, and I don't have to let somebody else choose how I'm going to respond. See if you can manage that. See if you can observe your day today rather than simply get dragged into it. Can you observe it and then choose how you respond to it? I hope in that rambling there was something valuable.
I think there was. I think that, a lot of people are going through the same kinds of things. Right? I don't know a person on the planet, yet that doesn't have a little bit of turmoil when they're interacting with others and the world around them at times. So yeah, hopefully that resonated with some people, and
maybe it stimulated some questions.
Yep.
And feel free to send them on, and then maybe I'll be better at what I've got to say, clearer anyway.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed today's podcast and that maybe it helped even a little. If you have any questions, we would love you to send them along in an email to info@somhypnosis.com. Thank you for being part of the State of Mind community. For more information about hypnosis and the various online or in-person services we provide, please visit our website, www.somhypnosis.com. The link will be in the notes below. While you are there, why don't you book a free 1-hour journey meeting with Hillary or Les to learn more about what hypnosis is and how you might use it to make your life what you want it to be. Bye for now. Talk to you tomorrow.